My career was stimulated by Beatlemania, and you're probably too young to know what that is, but you can Google it. And when
I'm
I
familiar
saw,
with Beatlemania.
oh yeah, the Beatles were rebellious, I guess, because they had long hair. And if you saw pictures of them on their first album, Meet the Beatles, they certainly, by today's standards, don't have long hair. But the Fab Four got a hold of my heart, and I was one of those screaming teenagers in the 60s. And so that's all I wanted to do. You know, you get inspired as a child, and all I ever wanted to do was be a musician. So my mother wanted me to be a nurse because she wanted me to marry a rich doctor.
Right.
And I was enrolled at Framingham State University in Massachusetts. And 2 weeks before it was time to start college, I said to myself, what am I doing? I don't want to be a nurse. I can't. I faint at the sight of blood. I'm doing this because my mother wants me to do this.
Right.
I want to be a musician. The seeds were already planted. So I pulled out of college for nursing and enrolled in Brookline, Mass at the School of Contemporary Music with Jeffrey and Penny First, and went to rock and roll school.
So
And
you learned to play like guitar or bass or just everything?
guitar, and but then when they started slamming us with music theory reading, I'm like, oh my god, I can't figure these notes out. Didn't realize I had dyslexia, so I stayed into
Same.
college long enough to learn 1 4 5 bar chords, rock. Now I don't play I can play the easy peasy folk chords, but if you want to play a bar chord, that you really graduated to rock and roll.
So for
So
anybody that's curious, because I know exactly what you're talking about, bar chords are generally two or three. So they're not, they can be a major chord, but generally they're kind of either like a flat, a minor, and sometimes they're a major. But it's usually two or three chords.
yes, and 1 4 5,
Yes.
one's the tonic, and then 4 5. That's the progression. So you can start playing in a band, which is what I did in Boston. I joined a band. It was called MPC and the Instigators. And the highlight was opening up for Joan Jett at the infamous, but now defunct, Rat, my favorite place to play in the early 80s. And what are you chowing on there, Dave? Huh? Looks like Chinese food.
I'm actually now curious because you just said you worked with Joan Jett at one period.
My band opened for her, but
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it was amazing. And but unfortunately, I was not of my right mind because I started dabbling in drugs. When you get into the music scene, at least in Boston in the 80s, a lot of like marijuana comes around, and but not necessarily in the clubs because you can smell it. So I got a lot of free
Well,
lines.
there was other stuff besides marijuana. Marijuana. I mean, there was flocka. Um, there was poppers. I mean, there was among other types of drugs, including methamphetamine. Molly was another one that was very much used at the time.
I never heard of
Cocaine.
it. Are you sure this is the 80s, dude? Like it was THC, purple microdot, angel dust, winter
Well,
paint acid,
Molly. I grew up in
mescaline.
New York. I grew up in New York, so
Okay.
as far as like I know, like the scene out there, Molly, specifically even meth was more
Wow.
predominant around in some of those areas.
Never heard of it when I was doing drugs.
Really?
Really? Really? Yeah. This is the early 80s in Boston.
Speaking of which,
Ah. Is Twix in the house?
yes, she is in the house. Come here,
Oh,
you.
everybody, you got to see this
Ugh!
kitty. Oh,
Come
she's
here.
a
Come here. Come to me.
beautiful. Is that what you call a calico?
She
Is
is
it
a
calico?
calico tuxedo.
Oh, a tuxedo.
Yeah,
Whoa,
because she's
whoa.
got
High class.
little high class girl that likes
Yeah.
to get into a lot of trouble.
That's the only way to be.
No,
Is
exactly.
she female?
She is female. I mean,
Okay, well there you go. Yeah.
I wish she was like one of those like rare male calicos, but you don't always get that lucky. But
Well,
she's just
well,
as cute.
she'll let you know when she's ready to meet somebody like that.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like so you started off over there, basically opening up for those bands,
Yeah.
and how honestly, like, how was that experience for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. I started dating the guitar player who interviewed me, a tall, handsome Greek man with raven black hair, and he had a really nice pad across from Berkeley School of Music. And he just, did our recording at Berkeley, and
Oh wow.
I really got to experience the high life. He was very good friends with a Boston DJ at the time, Mark Parento, and they had a lot of parties. The cars were passing through the revolving door as I was going out to a gig, and we played at places like Bunratty's was another favorite place to play. The Mad Hatter, we played there, and we did the tour of New England. But like I said, we really got lost in the drugs. And eventually, well, even though we had one song on the radio, and you can still hear it on my CD 80s,
Mm-hmm.
it's called Boston Nights, and MPC, the tall Greek god, he wrote that song. But I wrote a song also called Dreamin', which you can also hear in that same CD. And we never got to finish that song because we broke up. But
Mm,
we got a call from a producer in New York at the time.
mm-hmm.
Hanuman Das was working with the band In
Okay.
Excess, and they wanted to record my song Dreamin'. And I'm like, OMG, this is it. So Michael gets off the phone because Hanuman's his friend, MPC. And we start fighting about, at this time, we're married. We gave up the band life and moved to New Hampshire to live happily ever after. But anyway, so we started arguing about who was going to get credit for the song. And I said, I wrote it. He said, well, it's my friend. So because we were both so stubborn, the song never got recorded. And it was like that's my biggest mistake in my life is just having too much of me in there, feeling insecure about who I was, trying to stand my ground and say I wrote the song, so I want the credit for it. No, I should have just said, "Look, you can have the song if you want."
But there's a there's a flip side to it
Yeah,
where if you look at, for example, like the career of somebody like Cass Elliot, which is also
yeah,
known as Mama Cass,
yeah,
she tried to be as open as she possibly could, express who she was as an individual. And I mean, it showed through with her music, but her
mhm,
life was cut short. And
yeah,
even with everything that she worked towards saying, hey, don't focus on my body, focus on what I can offer. I'm creative, I'm
yeah,
talented, I'm funny, I'm a good singer. That even after her own death, it was completely flipped. Like everybody viewed her as Cass Elliot, the woman that was extremely heavyset. That's all she was, and that's all that she ever would be. And that's hard to take in because there are other people that are like that as well, where they work really, really hard. That's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember her. I mean, her legacy was the singer that died eating a ham sandwich in bed.
Even though that wasn't true, and they knew that it wasn't true.
I didn't know it wasn't true.
No, it wasn't
Oh
true.
my
It was a
god,
lie.
I believe the lie.
She had a coronary a pulmonary aneurysm, and
Oh,
she had a heart attack while
wow.
she was sleeping.
Well,
Yeah.
Dave, you're really cool. I have a question for you. One of the reasons why I accepted your interview request is that you have an expression on your podcast site that war is over if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of my favorite all-time Beatles, John Lennon. So, tell me what you think about that, and why did you post that on your podcast?
So John Lennon was a very big inspiration for me.
Mm.
I grew up, like I've said this many times on this podcast, but I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish community, which in many sense was a cult in New York. And one of the influencers that kind of helped me through a lot of the pain that I had as a teenager was
Ah,
John Lennon. I would put um, some of his songs on repeat for hours on end. And the song, which is Give Peace a Chance,
yes. Yeah.
honestly, like it seems very utopian. It may seem like very out of the box, but honestly, if you break it down, is war is over if you want it.
Mm.
And war can mean, doesn't necessarily mean like actual war, means internally what's going on inside of you.
Yes.
The war inside of you is over only if you want it, and you're the only person that can get yourself out of it.
Wow, that's pretty deep. That's
Yeah,
pretty
that's what I take from it.
I mean, Dave, I hadn't even thought of that concept myself, and I've gone through the internal war, having gone through trauma as a child in a different way, but taking years to get my act together with a lot of help. But if you want the help, then you can pursue healing. But if you don't want it, or you're afraid to face it, which is what
Yeah.
happened to me at the end of my marriage to MPC in '86. I had been going to counseling to try to save our marriage because nobody wants a divorce. But he just said, "Look, I don't need to go to counseling because I don't come from a broken home like you." So I went to counseling for a year, and every time the counselor would try to dig into my childhood, the wall would go up, and I said, "You don't need to know about my childhood. That has nothing to do with my marriage." Unfortunately, in hindsight, it had everything to do with my marriage, but I didn't want to go there. And I didn't even understand why I was blocking my childhood other than I was not ready to face it. So getting
It's very much a coping mechanism that we all do.
yeah, yeah. So unfortunately, because of my own the fear of not wanting to face my childhood at that time, I've since have, but the marriage went down the tubes. It was really sad. So, yeah.
We all make mistakes in life,
Yeah.
but I remember I had this conversation with my friend Carissa a while back, where the idea of why are so many artists fucked up individuals? And I'm being straight up. Like down the road, if
Yes.
you look at artistic people, we're all in many ways fucked up, and there are a variety of reasons for it. But I think it is very much the way where we see the world in a different aperture,
Mhm.
a different clarity, almost in a different color or an array. And you sometimes have to go through something really hard to be like, oh wow, I really see the world a very different way,
Yeah,
you
I've
know?
always seen the world in a very different way. Yep, and, to the point of being a misfit and, being misunderstood. The song that always plays in my head anytime I try to find my tribe, I think, "Oh, these are gonna be the people," "These are gonna be the people that understand my music because my music is about what I'm going through in life. That's why I'm releasing singles, what's going on in my life. And then I get disappointed because they don't get me. And I end up playing that song in my head by the Animals. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. And I'm like, how come you don't get me? And what ends up happening is I end up getting bullied. The bullying started in high school, being bullied. Um, the only time I really got along with people was in the early '80s when I was a musician in a band. I was with like kind, but when I got to the point where I was taking too many drugs and then almost died from an overdose, I had to change my friends because I had a revelation of who God is in my life spiritually for the first time. I was brought up Catholic, so, we just went through the motions, but, and
Yeah.
we didn't miss church because we were afraid of going to hell if we missed mass, so that's what one of the rules was. But, when I stopped doing drugs, I had to change my friends because they wanted to party and I didn't wanna be around it. So I've been looking for my tribe ever since. And the thing that's the challenge now for me as a musician, and a singer-songwriter and an author is that I guess I have a young heart, and I'm a baby boomer, and people my age, they wanna pull out the pictures of their grandkids or talk about their prescriptions, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm just not there. I'm not there." And so the younger kids, yeah, I call them kids, like in their 40s or 30s or 20s, they don't accept me because it's called ageism, too old. So I'm like, I've been a misfit as an artist all my life."
Yeah, it's strange because like my mom is also a baby boomer. She's
Uh-huh.
65. She was born in
Yeah.
59.
Okay.
And she's very much like a baby boomer, but in many
Mhm.
ways like she has her own personality and own character
Mhm.
where my mom likes to feel young. She likes
Yeah.
to she likes to do things like my mom loves Disney, okay? She will just love to just go out and just like look for something interesting or fascinating in an outfit, you know, not just
Mhm.
another sweater or cardigan or beige
Mm.
pair of shoes.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I kind of feel very inspired by that because here is somebody that is not trying to stay 22 or 9.
Right, right, right.
She's just being her own.
Yeah, it's the child within. Once you go through the healing, like, war is over if you want it. It
Yeah.
means you have to nurture the child within yourself. Each one of us has a child within. If you buy into that psychology, I do tremendously.
All about the artist. That is the whole purpose of this podcast, period. And you have a really valuable tool. You can share this with artists, people that are creative, someone that can enjoy this podcast and really enjoy the experience of Lost in the Groove. So, with that, let's jump back to today's episode, shall we?
If you let yourself walk around wounded, you can tell people that are wounded because they talk about their past all the time, and everything is terrible and everything's awful and they complain. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you have some aches and pains, but you're not the only one. Just do something about it. Get over it. Go to a doctor, but stop using my ears as trash cans. And but anyway, I just think that once you go through healing, and we're being healed every day. But Selam Elohim, we're healed from glory to glory, you
Yeah.
know, and you want to migrate toward a higher self, which now, of course, I'm talking about the soul in each one of us are sparks from God, if you believe that. But you can't take the baggage with you. You have to want the war inside to be over. And it requires exploration. And the problem with most people that I've met is they get stuck in the process. They don't want to grow. They want to be like they were in the 20s, and they walk around stunted because that's that's not growth if you're stuck in who you were.
And a
You
lot
have
of
to.
them are very angry,
Yeah, tremendously.
tremendously angry.
And a lot of times they're angry at themselves because they didn't have the courage to face the truth or to reach higher. But Sly and the Family Stone had this song, I wanna take you higher,
Mm-hmm.
and or Stevie Winwood had sung about higher, something like that. I want to be higher and it's possible without drugs. And you have to start studying things like the 10 Sefirot and mystical Judaism, which is where I'm at. So it brings life, it brings youth. So I don't do the Disney trip. I don't have kids, but I do the God trip. And it's available for anybody that wants it, but it takes work
Mm-hmm.
and you have to want it, you know? There's the information is hard to find, but let's face it. God said, "Seek me with all of your heart, mind, soul, and spirit." You know, He's there. And I don't know what your thing is, but that's my thing. So
I mean, I
that's
think
what keeps me young, young.
I think the idea of having a family and that is your pursuit of happiness, that's great and that works for a
Yeah,
lot of people.
yeah.
However, there are people that can live lives that don't necessarily raise their own family, but as they get older, they have people around them, a support group, friends, people that they can connect with, people that they may have known for many, many, many years.
Mm,
It's all about the people that you surround yourself with, because the same thing
yes,
applies with marriage and relationships too. It's
right.
who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that will give you kindness, will show you compassion, will open up and be able to communicate?
Mm,
And sometimes it's not the case.
yeah.
So you either can stay comfortable or you can run away from your problems.
Yeah, I know that is true. In my case, if I come into a new tribe, which I'm experiencing now, a new group of friends, because I don't have family. My family threw me out when I tried to, when I was going through counseling for childhood trauma. My stepfather had molested me when I was 13, and I buried it.
I'm
And I'm
sorry.
like, well, hey, that's life, right? We got to get over it. So, but the thing is, I had like somehow suppressed it because my mother at the time said, if it wasn't for your stepfather, you'd be in a foster home. So I stuffed it, and as a 13-year-old, and it didn't come out until like 2 decades later when I had a car accident, and it jarred my memory, and I started having flashbacks of when I was 13 with all the feelings and stuff. So that drew me into counseling. But um I had to go through counseling for years, and it triggered again when I had a day job as a public school teacher dealing with the abuse from the kids. Oh, that was a horrendous experience. But anyway, what was I saying? I
Fun
had a
times. No,
fun times.
we were talking about making connections with people and not
Oh yeah,
necessarily.
okay. Okay, yeah, there I was. So anyway, what happens is um I try to befriend women, and as a musician, as an older musician, and so most people that I get into a new circle with at my age, they don't understand me at all because I'm different. We're all different. I'm a musician, though. I only want to talk about music, and I only want to talk about God and art, and everything else to me is like small talk. I don't dig small talk, especially when you're talking about how everything's terrible, awful. You start complaining, and like this lady's talking to me about a book that didn't go anywhere, and she's grinding the axe, and I'm at this meeting, and I'm thinking, why are you like dumping on me? So most people have baggage, and I'm not a I just don't wanna listen to it. And then there's
Yeah.
the other group that are jealous that, because I wanna be a shlichat zibur and get up there at the bima and praise God. But jealousy is everywhere, including in, you know, the higher levels of any religion. I've always had to d or before that, it was the Christian thing, and you got Sally Sue shacking up with the, choir director, and I blow the whistle on them, and then I'm told that we don't need any police in the church. Just ignore it. I'm like, no. I mean, if you're going to get up there and lead people, you'd better be doing what you believe in. Otherwise, you're a friggin' hypocrite. So anyway, I'm
Yeah,
on a
I like
roll.
to like pertaining to even with religion. I myself, I'm not religious,
Mm.
but I do consider myself to be agnostic,
Okay.
and I do I like to play around with the idea of not necessarily a god, but more of the universe. Because the thing is,
Hmm.
we're inside of the universe, and whether
Right.
we understand this or not, the universe has some type
Across
of
the
control.
universe. John Lennon sang about the universe. I always
Yeah.
wondered what he was saying in that song. Across the universe, da 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 da.
It was
You know the what's he saying there?
it's Hindi. I forgot the actual phrase,
Yeah, yeah,
but this was a kind of a common thing across a lot of rock bands in the late 60s where
yeah.
they would just randomly throw Hindi in there. I mean,
I always wondered where we Die Guru
see, here, let me look up the
Seva.
lyrics. Just give me a sec.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I'm gonna have
Nothing's
to.
gonna change my
Nothing's
world. Nothing's gonna
gonna
change my
change. It's funny
world.
actually because a lot of people do not know what this song is. It's on their last album, just called "Let
Okay,
It Be."
okay.
Yeah, it is Hindi. It's Jai Guru Deva Om.
I've heard that Om word in yoga class. Om.
Om, yeah.
So what does it mean? Does it say what it means?
Let me. Ooh, now I'm curious.
Yeah, I hope our listeners are curious too, because I'm looking it
If
up on my phone too.
yeah, let me see.
Nothing's gonna change my
Oh, okay.
world.
It's a Sanskrit phrase that can be used as a greeting or a blessing, or salutation, or opening and closing phrase. It can be interpreted to mean glory to the shining remover of darkness.
Oh, well, how cool is that?
Yeah.
So can I share some of the lyrics with your people?
Yeah, sure.
This is John Lennon. Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither wildly as they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world.
I wish I can
I
like put
was
a link for the song, and I mean, I'm gonna try to like. I'll put a link
okay.
in the description
Yeah,
for the
that'd be cool.
yeah, because
It's
like I honestly feel like a lot of people do not know what the song is. You
Yeah,
know,
well, I know all the words to the Beatles songs except probably that one because I didn't understand it as a teenager.
yeah, I mean, again, it is a little random for a British band to just like throw in some Sanskrit.
Yeah, he was on a spiritual journey, John
Yeah.
Lennon was. The Beatles actually all were. They got into the Magical Mystery Tour, and that artwork I love. As a matter of fact, my second book, which is, I'm not going to tell you the title because I don't want anybody to take it, but I've
Ooh.
got that same kind of Magical Mystery Tour art on the book cover. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I love that psychedelic kind of hippie stuff. I'm actually still a hippie. And I don't know where have all the hippies gone. I don't know where they are, but I'm here. I'm here. But
I
see the
think honestly, I think hippies have kind of evolved. Like I do consider myself to be a hippie.
cool.
One of my best friends, she's also, but it's more of today where a lot of us have normal jobs, but
Oh, that.
we're still very artistic people.
Oh, I've been in that boat, and like I said, I tried to do my music and be a school teacher during the day. Oh my God, I almost went insane. Talk about PTSD triggers. I think Twix wants something. Did you feed her?
No, she likes to. The rule about Twix is she likes attention, she needs
Oh,
attention, she
oh,
wants
okay,
attention, and she
okay.
will have her attention. Come here.
So if I start going meow, are you going to give me some attention?
Yeah, generally that's usually the case with her. Meow. Come here.
Twix, we can hear you.
Come here. I'm telling you, like
Okay.
it's literally become where if you can hear her in the podcast, then
Yeah.
it's not lost in the groove.
Okay. There you go.
There you go.
Huh?
You know what I'm saying?
I
So it's just
tell
like,
you.
but you know what? It honestly is where there have even been people that are very much hippie esque or
Uh,
are actual hippies that have really revolutionized like the cannabis industry. the music
Ah,
industry. I mean, independency for artists. Like there have been people there that have done tremendous work. The thing is now where it's more of a focus of we need to survive. We're
yeah.
going to survive, but we're going to
Ah,
expose and show the world what we're capable of.
wait. Now, are you talking about humankind, or
No,
are
I'm
you
talking about
talking about
specifically people
artists?
with no, I'm talking about people with specifically within a hippie attitude towards
Oh, the
life.
hippie. Ah, yes, yes, yes. Well, the thing is it possible to be hippie without doing drugs?
Yeah, 100%. I
Oh,
mean, our bodies release chemicals such as our bodies have what's called the endocannabidiol system, which is
okay.
what cannabis
Yes.
interacts with.
Ah,
Our
yes, yes.
brains produce psilocybin and also
Oh,
dimethyltryptamine, among other
ah,
chemicals. So, believe it or not, you can get kind of the same feelings of getting high if you
yes.
do a run. So, if you do like a mile run, and belie-
Maybe for you, Dave, but for me, I'd be hobbling back to the
no,
couch.
but they had researchers do this because they basically scanned the brain to see
Yeah.
which systems were interactive and
Oh,
active,
yeah. Yeah.
and that was one of the systems that became active after the
Yeah.
person did that run.
Well, let me just say that you can have that same feeling with yoga.
Yeah, a
And you
hundred
don't,
percent.
for sure. I mean, I teach yoga. I got my certification when I try to put myself back together after PTSD triggers from the day job. I am spending the rest of my life trying to put myself back together. And so I teach yoga. And it really helps me to stay grounded. And the breath work that's required if you're doing it right is just phenomenal, phenomenal. You feel like a new person after you have a 20-minute session. So, but yeah, I think, are you a neuroscientist?
No, but I was
You're
gonna. I love that, by the way. Um, First time anybody that has ever told me that, but I appreciate
Ah,
it.
yeah.
I actually, my apologies. The reason why kind of I came late today was I went to a Pilates class.
Oh my, that's strenuous.
Yeah, I haven't been doing any physical activity, and I've been having a friend of mine
Yeah,
that's like, you have to try, and I was like, okay,
yeah, yeah.
and I feel absolutely amazing.
Well, Twix doesn't.
No, she doesn't feel amazing right now, but I feel absolutely amazing, and like
Okay,
I totally agree with
that's
you. Like Pilates and yoga
yeah,
is you feel a body. I'm dead serious. Like I felt
yeah.
a body high afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. And do you feel more connected mentally to your body after that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you
I
can go
had
deeper.
I had a knee injury last year where I had a
Yeah,
bone contusion where my
yeah.
knee twisted 40 like about 40 to 45 degrees inwards.
Ouch.
So like even in the Pilates class I could feel the
Oh.
bones like almost like, and then there was like a little like almost like a snap,
Oh, yes, I
and
know
it
that
felt,
snap.
and it felt good.
Oh, oh,
Isn't that
really?
weird? Isn't that
Well,
weird?
was it bone gas?
Kind of, yeah.
Wow, that feels good. Yeah, but if you have a subluxation of your fibula head when you're trying to do a squat, man, that don't feel good at all.
Mm-mm.
I'm
And
telling you.
I feel like, especially like with Pilates, I'm gonna definitely try to see if I can also do yoga. Like there is,
Yeah.
there's like this strengthening of almost like your kneecaps and your elbows and your hips and your ribs and your torso,
Yes.
and you could feel
Yes.
each of the bones moving.
Oh, it feels
Just go
wonderful.
to a class. That's what I'm recommending to you people
Well,
out there. Just go to a
okay.
class.
Now, not all classes are the same, though, Dave. You have to find somebody that's grounded themselves, because there's a lot of dysfunctional yoga teachers, or they get into the demonic realm of it. And I think, what do they call it? Kundalini is some of that demonic stuff. I think yoga is very spiritual. So what I'm saying is, depending on your spirituality, because and you can be an atheist and still be spiritual.
Oh
You
yeah.
want you want to migrate toward a yoga teacher that zens with you. You don't want to, like, for example, I do Jewish yoga, so I would not want to go to a Christian yoga teacher. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised religious, so there's like definitely like when you're dealing with sometimes specifically spiritual things,
Mhm.
it's kind of helpful to go into your own realm. So specifically, like even within the Jewish community, when it comes
Mhm.
to things like this, which they do offer this,
Yeah.
it's important to have somebody that is like connected to that religion specifically.
Yes, absolutely. Like, for example, I would highly recommend a yoga book called Torah Yoga. It's by Diane Bloomfield, and spends a lot of time teaching while you're doing the yoga. So it's not just let's get on the mat and do a pose. It's you're breathing deeply, you're thinking about a thought from, let's say, Safat Emet, and you're on a trip on your magic carpet. It's really it's wowza. So if you can find a group of people that are connecting in the same way, there's your friends. But the problem with my friends is they're online, you know?
I have where some of my closest friends, none of them live near me. So one of
Yeah.
my best friends, she lives in Iowa. I have another one that lives in Manchester, UK. I have another one out in North Carolina. I have one in Texas. They're all over the place.
Yes, that's
Um,
right. That's
but
right.
I do have people out here where I can kind of connect for specific things,
Uh-huh.
and it's all about. I'm going to sound kind of like almost corporate esque in the middle, but there's a point of utilization. Whereas
Mhm.
when you have a relationship with someone, I don't feel that there's anything wrong to have where why do we have this relationship? Okay, so we've established that this is a non romantic relationship. Great. Okay,
Okay.
so we're friends.
Okay.
What type of
Mhm.
friends are we? Are we friends that correlate around our business? Are we friends that correlate around our art? I mean, in your case specifically, are we friends that connect around religion? That's what you're using your life and spending your life with the other person. Why
Mhm.
not take the time and think about why are you spending that time with the other person instead of doing it
Yeah.
blindly?
Yes, absolutely. And, as a yoga teacher, I'm trying to connect with people that want to go deeper. But again, what I'm finding is that this a lot of secular people that
Keep
aren't
going. Just give me a sec.
interested in their spirituality. Like this last synagogue that I was at in Atlanta, I had a, a lady say to me, we were having a discussion about my music, and she said, "Oh, I'm not spiritual." And this was at a Shavuot event that I was leading last year. And I thought, "You're not spiritual? What do you mean?" She says, "I'm just not into spirituality." But after I sang Min Chametzar and some spiritual music that I do in
Mm-hmm.
Hebrew, she came up to me after the concert and said, and gave me a big hug. She said, I, she's something, I felt something when you were singing. And I'm like, yeah, it's spirituality. We connected as sisters through the music. The music is the medium and it carries the spirit. So you connected. And she said, I would not have believed that if I hadn't felt it, you know.
Yeah.
So there you have it. And the same with Jimi Hendrix. I'm a Jimi Hendrix fan.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got an album called The Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Experience.
I mean, when you've had the experience, how can you explain that to somebody else? You know,
One of my favorite Jimi Hendrix songs is I think it's
mm,
called Crossroads or
okay.
Traffic.
Traffic. Yeah.
I think it's Traffic, and
Okay.
the song is just you have to hear it. Okay, it's like one of those like you have to hear it to like understand. You, it's very true with Jimi Hendrix. It's like
Yeah.
the way to understand Jimmy is you got to listen to Jimmy, and once you listen to Jimmy,
Yeah.
you can't explain it to others except tell them to listen to Jimmy.
Right, exactly. And every time I like The Wind Cries Mary, which is a very mellow guitar song that he does. But wow, I mean, he just sucks me in to his realm. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to meet him because he's a phenomenal dude.
His death, I feel, was very much spiritual in the sense
Yeah.
that he knew he was going to die.
Mm,
He knew
mm.
he was going to die, and he accepted it. So what he did was
Wow.
spend as much of his 20s pouring out as much as he can into the world, which he did.
Yeah.
I
How did he know? How did he know?
I think, again, I can't. I'm just speaking off of like what I've read and kind of like influence wise. He's not
Okay.
alive anymore, so we can't actually ask him this. But I think that there are some people that have the knowledge of when they have some inkling of when they're going to die.
Yeah, I've heard that before. And so I think is the song you're talking about Crosstown Traffic?
Yes.
Okay, so let's run by a few lyrics here. I'm not the only soul who's accused of hit and run. Tire tracks all across your back. I can see you had your fun, but darling, can't you see my signals turn from green to red? And with you, I can see a traffic jam straight up ahead. I'm like, "Oh man, that is so
I mean, the
cool."
lyrics in it itself are is just
Oh, he's just phenomenal. So let me get back to this thing I was talking to you
yeah.
about being a neuroscientist because you were jarring the surface of my mind because I had been exploring the world of cannabis for my coffee, you know, and I found this coffee like it's hard to find coffee with cannabis in it, and the one that I'm using right now is called Pinnacle Hemp.
Hmm.
So, um, it's got 480 milligrams of CBD ground coffee, and so you were going into the
Hey, it's Dave, and I quickly just wanted to jump in and say if you've been enjoying the podcast and enjoying this episode, if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that'll be so greatly appreciated. Because here's the thing, someone might read that review and make the choice if they want to listen to the podcast. You get to help grow this podcast with us. How fucking cool is that? Let's jump back to today's episode.
details of the benefits of cannabis and that it is actually a component within our bodies chemically. And, I'd like something, a coffee that's a little bit stronger than 480 milligrams. And I was wondering if you could recommend a coffee to me.
So I'm not a particular expertise when it comes to the edible realm, but what I can tell you is when you deal with edibles, predominantly speaking, CBD generally handles heat and distribution better than other
Mhm.
So the thing about it is, plants have names, but what a
Yes.
plant really is multiple different compounds. Think of it like almost like a Tetris, right? You have
Mhm.
the different blocks you have to build that are different colors that represent different parts of this plant. So cannabis is kind of in the same realm. You have CBD, THC, THCA, there's CBN, there's CBG, and there's a couple of others.
Okay.
But with CBD particularly, the higher the milligrams you go, it generally doesn't change the effect. So with
Okay.
CBD specifically, what you're looking for is the type of CBD it is.
Ah, yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I'd like to study up on it more because I'm not sure if it helps me or not, but I love the taste of it, so I keep drinking it.
Well, it's edibles, by the way. Like, my mom is very much into edibles. I'm not. It's
Mm.
some people are and some people aren't. Its effect is very different than actual inhaling. But it's kind of, again, it's kind of incredible that cannabis is not the only plant that's like this. Mint is another great example. Mint, the way that it interacts with us. If you think about even like basil or
Oh, I
oregano, I
love
mean,
basil. I love
the list
basil.
just goes on of just the amounts of different plants we as humans interact and the understanding of like, I'm not a neuroscience. I've met a lot of people in the industry where plants play a very crucial part in our infrastructure, and we don't realize this.
Oh, well, there's a study of aromatherapy, which I did after I left teaching in 2016, the schools in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I spent time learning
You've been
about
around. You've
oh, you
been.
bet, you bet. There's no grass growing under my feet, dude. So, I mean, I want to live while I'm here,
I
and
feel
that's
you.
that's that's why I stay away from boring people because I don't want to get stuck in a rut. But aromatherapy, the essential oil that is taken out of the plant, the DNA of a plant is very similar to human blood. And so the trick or the art of an aromatherapist is to find out what you as a human being are deficient in your chemistry, and then to find that deficient chemistry in a particular plant and prescribe the administration of that essential oil for healing. And I am a big believer of aromatherapy. And what's even really good is if you can practice yoga while you have found your essential oil that you need, because it always changes depending on what's going on in your body, and inhaling that because it goes right into the um, the limbic system, the seat of
Hmm.
your emotions. It gives you a deeper yoga experience with combined with meditation. It's wonderful. If I could only find those people. If you're in Clearwater, Florida, and you would like to have a group session like this, please contact me because I would love to get something started.
You're in Clearwater.
I am.
I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, we're
Well,
both in Florida. Oh
hey.
my god, we got
Oh
another
my
Floridian! Yay!
God. I'll never leave. The only way I'll leave Florida is if God sends us to Israel.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah, I'm at.
most of my
Yeah.
family lives out there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
like
Wow.
90. Yeah, about 90% of my family.
Heavy,
Yeah,
heavy, heavy,
yeah,
heavy. My heart is with them all, and it breaks my heart that we've got such a distorted view of Hamas and keeping Hamas off of the hook and putting Israel to blame. And that's why I wrote this book. So at the beginning of, or shortly after the beginning of the October 7th massacre, I developed a burden in my heart for Israel because they are always blamed for everything throughout the ages. And I got this like download of information that I felt like I had to put in a book in
hmm
in a simple outline of what led up to the statehood of Israel and why the Palestinians didn't achieve that. It's not Israel's fault. And so this book is available: Jewish Palestine, Arab Palestine, A History of Conflict. It's not going to give you the answer for a two-state solution, but it'll give you the tools intellectually that you need to stop buying into the propaganda war.
yeah, and there is in Israel, it's called זה עכשיו, זה מדיונית ישראל, זה לא
Mhm.
ארץ ישראל. What that means is that right now it's called the state of Israel. It's not the land of Israel. Now,
Mhm.
as a person, I've lived there for 3 years, and it's one of those things where if you don't have a connection to Judaism, you don't have family that's out there, it's none of your fucking business. End of
Yes.
story. It's none of your
Yes.
business. It's
Right.
our business. You want me to meddle into your Look, I can meddle into other people's businesses, but I'm not going to because
Right.
it's none of my business. Like this is,
Right.
and like the idea of even allowing this to have a platform is sad.
Oh, it's beyond sad. It's I mean, no one I mean, I know that you said you're an atheist, but God must be up
I'm not an
there.
atheist. I'm agnostic.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for correcting me. But, God must be up there thinking, what is wrong with these people? They're supposed to be intelligent. Why are they buying the lie? And why are they blaming my children? Why are the politicians proposing a two-state delusion? It has never worked. You're trying to make Israel give up land. Okay, so I hear you. You say the land is not theirs to give. Okay. All right. So, but we can meet 50-50, maybe, but you can't reason with these kind of
But
people. And they want to kill the Jews. The
but the
only.
people of
Mm,
Israel have always lived with other nations throughout its
mm,
history. And the thing
yes.
about, if I urge anybody that can go and do birthright, if you have any kind of Jewish heritage, just try to see if you can go ahead and get that done. It's really not hard to do. I think it's birthright.org. Um,
Okay.
they they'll take you on a tour to the Western Wall, and the thing that
Mm,
you'll learn is that Jerusalem, ancient Jerusalem, was a city that people would travel thousands of miles because it was the only place at that time that allowed
mhm,
freedom of religion. I saw with my very own eyes remnants of old temples that had nothing to do with Judaism that were outside of the Holy Mount. So what that means is that there was a period where we as Jews, as a collective, viewed our land as a place to celebrate for everyone.
mhm, mhm.
That in and itself it kind of shows where no one's taking land from anybody.
Right.
All the people, all Jewish people, all people that have history to that land want to do, just like many other nations within the Middle East, such as Saudi Arabia, such as United Arab Emirates,
Mm,
Qatar, and the list can
mm,
go on, such as you have Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan.
mhm.
All of these places were trying to find a place for them to have their culture, to have their own history, whether it be
Mm.
short, new, who fucking cares? And the same thing like applies with Israel. It's like no one's saying that they don't belong there. They have every right to be there.
Right,
Arab Israeli citizens that are Arabs, it's a thing that exists. And they
right,
get all the benefits and everything else that
right.
any other Israeli citizen gets. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying, but it's the Palestinians who are from Jordan. Jordan is 60% Palestinian, but nobody seems to want to bring that up.
Or the
These
fact
pe
that you have the radical Palestinians that live out here in the United States that
Oh,
have
yeah,
never
well,
spent
that's
not one day of their life over there, not one
right,
day.
right, and they're flying flags of Hamas. They're clueless as to what would happen to them if they ever joined Hamas.
Oh yeah.
But the Palestinians are from Jordan, and their leader was Egyptian. So the Egyptians that I've talked to know this. They snicker at Americans for not knowing this. It's not a secret where they come from. So the
No.
Palestinians are continuing to encroach on Israel's land because they're led by Hamas, whom they voted for, and the plan is to exterminate all of the Jews. That's the plan.
It's also crazy when you look into specifically with the history, right, which we're talking about. Palestinians, the people that live there, they are what's called Bedouins. Everyone
Mm,
that lives in that area, they're known as Arab Bedouins.
mm,
Why? Because that's where originally they were from. Bedouins were groups of Arabs, whether it being Muslim, Christian, among other religions, that used to travel in herds and they used to sell along major roads.
mm,
Over time, over periods 400 or 500 years ago, some of them started buying up plots of land in
mm.
areas of Jordan, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, and a few other places. That's how they landed in Israel. They
Yeah.
bought land from sultans hundreds of years ago to live there.
Right, right. Exactly.
So,
So get my
yeah.
book. Get my book. I'm going to send you a link, Dave, so you can read it for free. Do you have a Kindle? You have a
um, I have Amazon, yes.
Okay, so I'll send you a free Kindle view so you can check it out if you
Oh,
want.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I smell the matzo balls cooking, and my husband like wants his lunch in 20 minutes. Just to let you know.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're
Yeah.
almost finished in a
Oh,
couple of minutes.
okay.
Yeah. These like honestly talking about like situations like this is kind of hard and difficult because people are going to have their views
Yeah.
regardless of what we're saying. But
Well,
we both know the history, and quite
yeah.
well know that a lot of other people know the history as well. And I think that's honestly that all that matters.
Well, the thing is that if they did know the history, they're getting confused by the propaganda, and that's the way propaganda works. And if enough people say propaganda lies, after a while, the truth gets buried. And this is not the first time it's happened. We know this happened with Hitler. And the Jews are the ones that suffered. But it wasn't only the Jews that were exterminated during the Holocaust. It was like, what, the gay people, which I don't understand why LGBT people are like pro Palestinian, because Hamas would exterminate them if they ever joined forces
Well, I'm
with
one of
that
those
leadership.
LGBT, whatever you want to call it,
Right,
that does
right,
not
right.
support Hamas.
Well, there you
Uh,
go. That's because you have a neuroscience mind. You
I guess
are
so. Yeah.
yeah, you have to study. See, it's easy to believe what somebody like, "Oh, really? That's what happened?" Like, I thought that Cass Elliot died on a ham sandwich. I didn't explore it for myself. I just believe what everybody else said. That's propaganda.
Yeah.
You just believe it because it sounds credible. But, that's the thing,
She was
a
such a
lie.
wonderful woman.
Oh, she was. But
So
the
wonderful.
lie is just a little bit of truth and sprinkled in there to make it believable, but it's totally bogus. So you got to do the work, people. You don't have to be mad at me. You can just get my book. I know I'm taking advantage of you, but
No, you're
just
not. Look,
get
this is
it.
this
Okay.
is your time to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to
Just
listen.
get the book, Jewish Palestine, Arab Palestine, A History of Conflict. And if you want an audible version, you can go to my YouTube channel
Ooh.
at Jewish Rock Music and look for the shorts video that has a link posted there every day for the next 100 days. The link will take you to Spotify Premium. If you have Spotify Premium, you will get a free audiobook
Oof.
download if you're the first one to click on it
Hey,
though.
I mean, it's
So,
great for a road trip, or if you got a long drive, or if you're doing DoorDash, you need to mellow out or something.
yeah,
Hey,
well, if you want to get smarter, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
get
So that
knowledge
the
on
next
the
time,
road.
that's it. And the next time you're in this conversation about the Israeli Palestinian war, you can interject with, "Oh, really? Well, I know for a fact, according to the historical documents that were found in the UK archives, you'll start blowing people's minds. They'll be going, huh? Like I
Yeah, I
was
do that a
when you
lot,
started talking to
especially.
me about cannabis. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, it's all about honestly learning
Yes,
learning from
yes.
others. I want to share this last story, which I think
Okay.
is important. When I lived in Israel, I worked in an Italian cafe, and I worked with this guy. His name was Youssef, and his family was from a village outside of Ramallah, in the West Bank.
Mm.
And his mother got very sick from cancer,
Oh.
and they didn't have facilities capable of taking care of her in the West Bank.
Mhm,
He reached out to, I think it's Mahane Yehuda, the
mhm,
um the ambulance service that was there.
mhm.
They sent an ambulance into the West Bank. They picked her up. They brought her to an Israeli hospital. They covered all of
Mm.
the expenses and kept her alive for
Wow.
6 years.
Oh my goodness
And I
gracious.
remember him
But you
turning to me
mm,
and he said, my own people couldn't save my own mother.
yeah, yeah. So what else can you say about that? That's the truth.
That is the truth. I
That
heard it
is
from
the
his own
truth.
mouth.
Yeah, and if anybody's listening and they speak English and don't know what kind of news to believe, because we know most of it is hogwash,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
perversion, lies, but you can go to I-24 News and look it up on Dr. Google, the letter I-24 News, and that's the closest thing you're going to find to the truth about what's really going on in Israel. So I encourage you to get educated.
Education is important.
It's everything. Knowledge
Mm-hmm.
is power. I mean, money is
Yes.
power too. Yeah.
Yes.
If I had money throughout the course of my life, I would already be a full-time musician. But I've had to struggle through with the day job that drained me, still do the music at night. And, like, I don't know how many people know indie artists rely on you to share, subscribe and all that. My family doesn't even do that, which is such a heartbreaker. It takes like 5,000 streams of one of my songs on Spotify to pay me enough to buy a t-shirt. So, like I've got 54 followers on Spotify. I'd be walking around nude right now, if that, but thank God I have a husband.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, you got to keep the hustle real, and sometimes
Oh,
you got to do what you got to do. Plain and
well,
simple.
I'm doing the dude. I'm
Yeah.
doing the dude. I'm
Oh
doing it.
man.
Yeah, I'm talking to you. So tell me, like, one more thing. Is your last name really Lennon?
No.
Ah, okay, all right, but I still like it. Yeah,
I do
I
that.
figured I'd like you, yeah.
I took the last name from John Lennon because
Of course.
my real name is David, but I go by Dave. But it's like
Okay.
I'm kind of one of those, like, I'm putting myself out on, like, people probably can search up and find who I really am, but
Uh,
generally for this, like,
yeah,
that's the
that's who you
last
are
name I'm
right
going with.
now. That's okay, and, if you are honest with yourself, then, like, I used to have pseudo names when I was in these different bands. I mean, I was called Delilah under my
Ooh,
maiden name, but, then I would go to play in churches and they'd say, "Oh, Delilah, huh? How's Samson doing?" And I'm thinking,
huh?
"What? Well,
Oh, right.
will you grow up? You're calling me a sleaze, when you want me to." And then for a while I wore tickle when I was going into churches to sing. And the pastor says to me, "Oh, I'm sorry. You have cancer." I'm like, "Huh?" I'm wearing a head covering. You freaking idiot. I can't believe,
So
people
ignorant.
have another joint, really.
So
Yeah.
ignorant.
Don't
Uh,
bogart that joint.
get it done quick.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Question for you.
Yeah.
What are your social links, Deborah? Do you have any, like, I know you mentioned you had some links for your books.
Yeah. Yeah. I got 2 that will get you to most places.
Okay,
So
cool.
so so the challenge is, of course, spelling my name right, because 99% of the people get the spelling wrong and then they can't find me. So I'll
Right.
spell it DebraCohenMusic.com. That's Debra, not Deborah. It's Debra Cohen, Cohen, music.com. And then if you want to know more about my books, you go to DebraCohenBooks.org.
Really simple and easy peasy.
Yes.
Just,
So write it down.
yeah. Just remember,
And
it's not Deborah or
yes, it's
Deborah.
not.
It's
Yeah,
Deborah.
yeah. And if you really want the book and you don't have any money, I totally get it, because I'm barely squeaking by on Social Security. You can go to my DebraCohenMusic.com site and click on the link that says book on Amazon, and then that'll take you to a landing page. Sign up for my newsletter, and you will get a PDF download of my book as a way of thanking you for signing up for my newsletter.
Awesome. Hey, it's a win-win, you know?
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
Dave.
And it takes you
All
less
right.
than a minute to do.
Yes, that's right. Share it, talk about it, give it to somebody else. If you don't like it, don't throw it away. Give the PDF to somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Dave.
Listen, it's honestly been a pleasure and a privilege to have you on.
Yes. Ditto. Yeah.
And if anybody out there wants to check out the podcast, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. And of course, you can check out our Lost in the Groove segment, American Groove with Carissa Andrews, available every single week. All right, this has been fun. This has been real. We're going to get the hell out of here. We love y'all.
We love you. Bye.